Hello and welcome to my playthrough of Kerbal Space Program with the Interstellar mod. This is episode 15. And as you can see, I've completed the mapping of Duna there with the scan site altimetry sensor. So we'll send that information back to Kerbin, and I'm going to then put us into an equatorial orbit, so that we are ready for performing the landing on Duna itself, and we're in the right sort of orbit for our return trajectory. So just set up the maneuver node and then do the burn. So I've just jumped forward in the orbit to the maneuver node that we just set up, and burn starts in about 40 seconds. We'll just count down and make that burn. Okay, so with that burn complete, I want to now try and bring up some fuel from the surface of the Duna from the previous landed probe, and try and get that into a close orbit so that we can start transferring some fuel back over. Sort of have managed to land on a previous save with next to the Duna refinery, but if you remember from the previous episode, we didn't have enough power, and I wasn't able with the Kerbal attachment system to move the microwave relay from the centre to the refinery, so we were a bit stuck. So I had to load my quick save in, and this is me attempting to try and get some other fuel up to this space station so we can at least have enough Delta V to get us home. I'm finding it quite difficult to pitch up on this probe, so I'm just going to try and turn it around and get it to fly up the hill and hopefully get enough momentum going so that we can lift it up into the air. As you can see, it's quite difficult. We're just sort of sliding down the hill. I'm not getting enough torque. I'm just going to close those solar arrays so they don't get blown off in the even though it is thin atmosphere, they could get blown off. I'm going to throttle up and see if we can get enough pitch uplift. Okay, well, obviously not then. So we've lost that probe. That's and all of the fuel there. So we're going to have to look at some other methods. Okay, so we're looking at the probe that was around Ike, and we're going to try to get that transferred into an orbit around Duna and get the fuel off of there. So we've just got to, because it's in a polar orbit, we've also got to do a plane change as well. I just realised probably burnt in the wrong direction to get out of that orbit, but we've not used up too much fuel, so I think we're okay. Just setting up a maneuver node there so that we can circularize around Duna. I think it's in about a day's time, 1 day and 4 hours time. They just jettison that stage we don't need. We've just got the small stage left. Okay, we're back to the manned part of the mission now, and we're going to undock the landing module. Just move away from the space station, and now we'll fire retrograde with our RCS, try and save as much fuel as possible and land on Duna. So we're going to use the RCS here to lower the periapsis so that it's about 20 kilometers. Then deploy the parachutes, and hopefully we should land on Duna and still have enough fuel in the main stage left to get us back up into orbit safely. So Jebediah's not stuck there on the surface. And of course, we haven't got any extra additional life support on here, so we've only got the 24 hours of life support that comes with the Mark 1 lander can. Just sorting out the staging there so that when we do stage, we're not going to deploy all the parachutes and everything in one go. So the first stage should just deploy the heat shield that we've got there, and then enable the thrusters we've got for landing. So we were getting some odd mutation going on there. I ejected the heat shield because it wasn't really, the atmosphere's so thin, it's not really protecting us that much anyway. And I'm going to fire the thrusters now. As you can see, only like at 30% and then up to 4%, because I want to make sure that we come in steep enough so we land vertically and not we're coming in, otherwise we're coming in horizontally or very shallowly, very fast, and the parachutes probably wouldn't slow us down enough to stop us and get us to land actually on the landing legs. Because there's like three engines on this lander to try and sort of balance up the system to make it have a wider base for when it's landing. We're getting quite a lot of thrust off that, and it has caused, if you're not lined up centrally with your thrust, it is knocking us around, and we are getting all of this spinning going on. Of course, there's atmospheric effects going on as well, so that's causing some of the issues. But then now we deploy the parachutes, which should be pointing in the right direction. I can probably turn SAS off as well, so that that's not going to be fighting the orientation as well. So here I'm using the RCS to try and slow us down a bit further. I don't want to use up too much of the RCS because we'll need it to dock to the station again after we've launched. I'm just trying to save as much of the main stage ascent fuel as possible. Our target surface velocity for landing is less than 10 meters per second, so we are going to have to slow down a little bit. We've got 70 meters to go, and we're getting there. We're less than 10 meters per second, so we should be okay. Nicely done. Let's grab as much science as we can. We have landed in the shade, and we've only got solar power and a small battery on this device, so we're going to have to grab as much science as we can, get a surface sample, and then take off as soon as possible. Okay, so we're going to jump back in and launch. Now we're having those pitch problems again because I'm at full thrust again. I think in hindsight I should have probably gone for maybe 2/3 thrust, which would have probably lifted us off. And our orbit vector is pointing in the wrong direction. We really want to be pointing at like plus 90. I think we're pointing at probably like due south, so we'd end up in a polar orbit. I'm going to try and port do like a dogleg manoeuvre and try and pull us back round, so we're pointing back in the right direction, so we should be able to get an orbit that intersects with the other manned part of the mission. Cut the fuel, we can coast through the atmosphere and then do our circularization and hopefully our plane change at the apoapsis to save as much fuel as possible. Because of that dogleg manoeuvre, we've lost quite a bit of fuel. I'm going to try and use some RCS up again, which we're getting low on as well. Okay, so we're out of our main fuel, and our periapsis is still too low, so I'm going to have to use the RCS to lift it above the atmosphere. I think 50 kilometers is probably okay, and we'll have to now switch to the Duna Station to perform the rendezvous. Okay, so we'll target Jebediah's unfueled probe and then set up a maneuver node to try and get a close encounter so that we can dock with it. So I ended up using MechJeb to actually make the rendezvous. So that's just the final section. So we're now about 100 meters now from the Duna Station, from the probe. And it's now just time to start docking to it. Got a little bit of RCS left there on Jebediah's probe, but I don't think it's enough to make the docking. Yeah, so as you can see, we've run out of monopropellant now, so I'll have to switch over to the Duna Station and get that to dock to the unmanned probe. Now, because this is quite unwieldy to use, I've had to use the MechJeb module to actually do the docking. So we'll just watch the final few stages of that. There we go, we're docked. So now it's time to collect all of the science data from the experiments that are on the lander and transfer them to the main module. So we'll eject Jebediah. Unfortunately, again, we're in the shady side, so you can't see much other than his lights when I switch them on. There we go. So just collect the data from all of the experiments. First of all, the Science Junior, and then we'll collect it off of the other stuff, the GUI experiments and the pressure barometers and so on, and store them in the main capsule. There we go, all of the data is stored and Jebediah's back in the ship. So now it's our opportunity to go back to the probe. This is the polar orbit one around Duna, and we'll get it to align its plane with the manned one and try and get the fuel off of this one. And we've just set up a node there to do the home and transfer to closest approach. And just jumping forward then, I've used again the MechJeb rendezvous, and we're trying to get within 25 meters, so we're getting there now, just about 30 meters away. And once we're within 25 meters, I use Jebediah to attach a pipe to that probe, and then we can transfer the fuel. So you just got to grab the pipe adapter from the lander and then transfer it over to the probe on the fuel tank. So I've just transferred the pipe end point, and now I'm going to try and link that back to the one that's on the lander, so we can do the fuel transfer. There we go, so we're linked. Now I'm going to board, and we'll just do the transfer. There's hardly any fuel in here, but well, that's it. The fuel transfer is complete. Now I've got to undock it and push the probe away. So I'll just just check it for any science that we can take and store. And I'll stick the pipe endpoint over on the main body of the spacecraft in case we need to use it later. So I just want to push this probe away so it doesn't smash into the manned one, cause any damage like smashing up the solar arrays or anything. So I'm going to use Jebediah's RCS just to manually push it away. I don't really care where it goes as long as it doesn't come back. There it goes. And we'll just get Jebediah back into the main spacecraft. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching this episode. If you have, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more episodes.